Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it? Okay, this is the Brad and John Show. I am Brad, he's John. The web address is bjshow.co, bjshow.co. Okay, you got some great topics. You give top three this morning of the johncombest.com website. And third one was public radio. The situation with the station in Kansas City, which is the University of Missouri station in Kansas City. They have three stations. They have St. Louis, KWMU. They have the Rolla station, which essentially is programmed pretty much of the day by the St. Louis station, KWMU. And then they have KCUR. Oh, excuse me, they have four. They have the station in
KBIA, too.
KBIA in Columbia as well, too. Okay, this is a trend that's sweeping the nation, that all the public radio stations are going union. Now, I'm not a non-union guy. I'm not a union buster kind of guy. I understand unions, and if you go back in the history, especially of labor, and this is not, as working at a radio station is not labor, but if you go back in the history of labor, you're talking guys who are using their hands, who are in dangerous environments, guys and gals now. And what's funny about this is a guy who watches lots of YouTube videos. If you watch these videos of these guys in these third world countries working on things, pouring molten metal, and they're in sandals, they're in sandals.
You know what they're doing? They're getting the materials, Brad, for electric cars.
Right.
They're mining cobalt.
Exactly.
And uranium. Well, maybe not uranium. They're mining cobalt, and these are the conditions. And it would make a Teamster, their stomach turn.
Well, it would make, even me, I know a lot of the OSHA regulations, okay? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do this sometimes on people put up videos and I'll put, wow, can you count the OSHA violations?
Absolutely.
And we're talking in the United States. Well, anyway, the point being, in other countries, there is no government regulation. These guys are out there. I saw a video the other day of these guys, I think is in Indonesia, someplace in Indonesia. They're rebuilding car batteries. So they're cutting these batteries open and they're pouring the acid out. They have no eye protection, no gloves, no nothing. They're in sandals. Then they're messing with the lead, which is inside the battery. And then as they rebuild the battery, they're pouring new acid into it. Once again, no eye protection, stuff like that. And then what they do is to put new terminals on the top of the battery. They're actually, creating molten lead and pouring it into a form, which essentially forms the battery post. I'm going like, holy cow! In the United States,
you know what? And those are the exact reasons, Brad, why St. Louis Public Radio and Kansas City Public Radio need to unionize. Just imagine working at a desk and having to, having neck pain from an eye strain from staring at your screen, Brad. Do you want your content creators subjected to that?
Well, more importantly, having to keep your head sort of in one position as you're talking to the microphone. You can't just move around. You got to keep your head pointed right toward that microphone.
Can you imagine if you were a Teamster and a guy came up to you from St. Louis Public Radio and said, "Hey, I'm a union member too," and you were like, "Wow, really? What union are you a member of?" "I'm a member of the St. Louis Public Radio Guild. Ooh. We fight economic injustice and systemic racism." Ooh. And you'd be like, "Wow, that's great. Pleased to meet you."
Well, I know you're being facetious there, but see,
wow, what hard working conditions you must have. Thank goodness you have a labor union.
Going back to the union thing, once again, when we went through the Industrial Revolution, there was a problem with workers being injured,
Absolutely.
Limbs cut off, killed, dismembered, all sorts of crazy stuff. And the unions came in and said, hold on a minute, this is not right. This is, it's terrible working conditions. You're working these people 18 hours a day. You're putting them in terrible situations. They can, be killed, maimed, injured, all that kind of stuff. And unions came in and essentially essentially said, we're not going to allow you to have your people, your employees, under these conditions. And it was good. The unions did good. Well, the problem now is the government does that. The unions don't really come in and do that anymore. It's all, especially if you go on a construction site, it's all OSHA, which is the Occupational and Safety and Health Act or Administration, whatever. It's all OSHA regulations. Those aren't union regulations. Those are OSHA regulations. So the union has sort of morphed into this thing. I'm just going to say this, and some may disagree with it, but it's morphed into a thing where essentially they are protecting the workers from treatment that they don't think is fair from the management. Now, the crazy thing about this is in radio is the kind of business where one of the stations I worked at, we hired a guy on Monday, we fired him on Wednesday, okay? In a union situation, that would never happen.
Right.
And the problem that I have with the whole thing with public radio is they have the absolute positive best deal in the radio business. They don't work real hard. They're not a slave to ratings. If the station doesn't have any ratings, who cares?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
They're not held to any sort of competitive standard.
They're not selling advertising, so they don't care what the ratings are. And the product could be terrible. I mean, essentially, radio, what we're doing right now is free market to the point where if this radio station sucks and nobody listens to it, maybe that's the thing. I just said the two bad things. Anyway, then when we go out to sell advertising, the advertiser's going to say, Joe Advertiser is going to say, why should I buy your radio station? Nobody listens to it. Yeah. And we can't get any money from it. But with public radio, the whole deal is that they have big companies, and you listen to NPR, and this program is underwritten from a grant from the
Walton Foundation,
the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation. They because he got these billionaires and millionaires just sending them checks. Yeah. And plus, by
the way, Brad, next time we do a phone in, how about Tim Eby weighs in on this?
You know what? I don't want to get him in trouble.
Okay. Let forget I said anybody listening. Forget I said his name, and definitely do not go to Scribd and look up what he posted about the working conditions in St. Louis Public Radio. Do not do that. Don't go to johncombest.com and search for Tim Eby and see what Tim says in his own words about St. Louis Public Radio.
It's not kind. Tim Eby is a guy who, once again, I can tell you the story that his predecessor, who was Patty Wente. Patty Wente was Wente, whatever you pronounce it, was a victim of shall we say, a grudge match against her and the news department, and which is most of the people at the public radio, because almost all of them are in the news department. They have a ton of news people, and once again, did they do any news on the weekends? No. They? Once again, do they do? They cut down the number of local newscasts they do. I think there's only one or two of them in the afternoon, and there's some in the morning. Once again, I pointed out the fact that public radio in St. Louis, KWMU, only does 1 hour of live local programming between noon and 1.
It's unbelievable.
They replay that between 7 and 8 or 6 and 7?
Yeah,
so in other words, technically they have 2 hours of local programming, but 1 hour is just a repeat of the other hour. They have this huge, monstrous staff. They do no breaking news. If the arch fell into the river, you'd never know about it on KWMU. It would just not happen. Everybody go, our listeners don't really care about the arch because they don't like going downtown. And they'd rather go to the art museum. And if something happened at the art museum, we'd jump right on that.
Yeah. Now their argument though, Brad, is that they need the content creators because nobody else will tell the story of a transgender, handicapped, minority Shakespeare in the Park producer who's dealt with long COVID and overcome it. Who else will tell that story?
Well, Riverfront Times.
Okay, right? Yeah. Danny Wicentowski who fittingly works for St. Louis on the air. So I guess the RFT and St. Louis Public Radio have a strong relationship, obviously.
I don't know. Who knows? It's just one of those bugaboos for me to the point where it's like, okay, this is an unfair playing field. And they keep saying on KWMU, listener supported. That is BS.
Of course. And by the way, they posted a lot on social media. I know you're not a big Twitter guy, Brad. They posted a lot in the week leading up to the end of their pledge drive, and every post was we're short of our pledge. We're short of our pledges. We need you to stay on the air. And it's like,
that's
can
BS.
You imagine being a little old lady? Let's stereotype.
Right.
A little old lady in University City, who went to Woodstock, and you don't have a whole lot of money, but you send them $100 and you think this vital local programming is going to go off the air if I don't send them $100.
Well, and the crazy part of that is all the programming, if you figure they only do 1 hour a day, every single program on that radio station now is streamed, and a lot of it is on the podcasts. You can listen to This American, what is it?
This American Life.
This American Life with Ira Glass. You can go on and that's one of the top podcasts in the country. A lot of times it shows up in top 10. NPR shows up in top 10 of podcasts. And once again, they're making money off the podcast. You can listen to NPR. And for a while, I even thought to myself, wow, I can't believe they're doing that. NPR would say, you can stream us at NPR.com. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what they're doing is they're telling everybody, you don't really need to listen to your local radio station.
You don't need to turn it on. Absolutely not. Why would you when you can just stream it?
Now they've changed that on the network, they say, and you can stream this content on your local NPR affiliates. In other words, the idea they're pushing people toward the NPR affiliates because maybe the NPR affiliate said, hey, why would you keep telling people to stream your programming when they can hear it on your stream when we've got it on our radio station? It just drives me nuts. Okay, move on to that. I took a trip, and I think this is the fourth or fifth time I've done this. My oldest son lives in Pensacola, Florida. And this may sound very strange, and when I tell people, and I still have people that think I'm absolutely positively out of my gourd, which I am, I go down to have dinner with my son on Christmas Eve. I've done this 4 or 5 times. I can't remember which one. And I drive down one day, and I did this over the weekend. On Sunday, I left at 5:30 in the morning. At 5:30 in the evening, I'm at my son's house in Pensacola.
That's nice. That's a great trip.
I drove almost 12 hours straight nonstop. I have dinner with my son, now his girlfriend, Jamie. He's a wonderful lady, and talk a little bit after dinner. I go to bed at 10:30. I get up at 5:30 on Christmas morning, and I drive back. I'm back in St. Louis by 5:30 last night, okay? Now, let me give you the interesting aspect of this. I am able to do that because I have a car that has an ICE engine, internal combustion engine, okay? I have a little car. It's one of my rescue cars. People talk about rescue pets. I have rescue cars. I have cars that people are going to literally send to the crusher, and they give them to me or I buy them. This is one of my rescue cars, and I won't say what kind of a car it is but it's got, a matter of fact, I think when I looked at it last night when I got back, it's got 264,000 miles on it, okay? I was able to do that in 12 hours because I made 2 gasoline stops both times, and I'm in and out of the gas station, including going into the bathroom, buying myself a soda and maybe like a snack or something like that, and filling my tank up. I think the one time I timed myself 11 and a half minutes. The other time was like 13 minutes, okay? If I had a electric car, I could not have made that trip.
For sure.
Because,
without a doubt.
Right. I could have made the trip, but it would take me 2 days because I would have to stop and, buy a hotel someplace along the way. And once again, I'm in and out. And to the point, if I didn't go inside and use the bathroom,
it'd be even faster.
Right. If I just stayed at the pump.
Or you packed your own soda and snacks.
Right. And
you could have worn an adult diaper.
Right. Well, Okay, let me fess up to something. On the way back yesterday, Christmas Day, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to make I gassed up at Buc-ee's it's actually halfway between Mobile, Alabama and Pensacola. It's actually in Alabama. I gassed up at Buc-ee's. You know what Buc-ee's is? People go, they know exactly what Buc-ee's is.
Springfield.
And so I'm to the point where I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching my range in my car. It tells me how many miles to empty, all that kind of stuff. I thought, you know what? I need to gas it one more time, and I'll make it all the way to St. Louis on the last tank of gas, okay? So I'm in Tupelo, Mississippi on US 45, heading north, and I get off at this Texaco station, and it looks like it's closed, but I think to myself, well, man, there's lights on inside. Okay, it's open. And I put my credit card in the machine, in the gas pump, and it took my credit card. They must be open, okay? So I pump my gas, and I am like, it's the slowest gas pump in the world, and I've got to go to the bathroom really bad. I'm going, okay, hurry up. I pump my gas. I walk up to the door of the station. It's closed. It's locked. So right behind me, 2 cars pulled in with families and stuff like that. One car on the other side of the pump, And as I pull on the door and I walk away, the one guy next to me says, "It's closed?" I go, "Yeah, it's locked up." And he goes, "Well, we had to use the bathroom." I said, "Well, so did I."
Yeah.
So all of us went over to the side of the gas station where there's a creek, and we urinated out in public. So,
Brad, I was just gonna say, was there a tree nearby? But you did me one better, and there was a river.
well,
Or
the
a creek.
the
There
creek,
was a creek.
the creek was down the hill from where we're at. So here I
Nice.
am.
When you gotta go, Brad.
Here I am next to the dumpster, and a little bit, probably about 100 feet away from me, there's a dude and his son who are urinating on Christmas Day in Tupelo, Mississippi. And I'm going like, see, now what's interesting about that is in most states, that's illegal because you can't have unattended gas pumps.
Oh, I thought you meant the act of urinating.
No,
here.
well, it's in public urination,
Now, because
indecent
you were in
exposure.
Tupelo, did you hear Elvis singing "It's a Yellow Christmas" at the gas station?
But see, once again, in most states, it's a violation of the fact that you have unattended dispensing of gasoline. Matter of fact, there's a place, I don't know if it's still out there. There's a place out on St. Charles Rock Road off Earth City Expressway that has an unattended gas station, and they have to have all these special sensors and sprinkler systems and stuff like that. But apparently in Tennessee, you don't have to have anybody working. The pumps can just be on with nobody there.
You mean Mississippi?
No, I was in Tupelo, Mississippi. I'm sorry, Tupelo, Mississippi. Because I also go through Tennessee. That's the sort of the sneaky route that I use, which is I'm an interstate kind of guy, but I use this. I go 55 down to 155, and then I cross across the Mississippi into Tennessee, and then you go.
Yeah, I have the map up right now because I was wondering what towns you went through.
Yeah,
there.
I went through Jackson. The only crazy thing about that is you go through the heart of Jackson, Tennessee, and you are literally driving around in the city in small little neighborhoods. This is where 45 goes. It's sort of weird, and you go past the town square and the whole bit, and then once you get on 45 south of there, it's pretty much 4 lanes all the way until you get down into Alabama. We got to go. We're over time already. John, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right.
It's 8 o'clock.